Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 28 based on novel. So let's start. Are you threatening me? Li Gan threatened his life, which made Xiao Yang really angry. He was the least threatened in his life. Li Gan's behavior really touched his scales. When Li Gan heard Xiao Yang's angry words, he even showed a sneer on his face. Xiao Yang's anger at the moment was right in his heart. As long as Xiao Yang has scruples about anyone or anything in the wild ancient city, Xiao Yang will not let the fly ash of the wild ancient city annihilate, and he can be safe and sound. As for the killing of Xiao Yang, Li Gan naturally has remembered that although he can't kill Xiao Yang, there are many strong people in the world. As long as he can add fuel to the fire a little, the people who kill Xiao Yang will naturally line up to find him. Thinking so in his heart, Li Gan's smile became more and more obvious, and he looked at Xiao Yang with more and more disdain, which made Xiao Yang furious. As for the rage in Xiao Yang's heart, the 10.5 strong emperors in the sky also saw it in his eyes, and his heart also smiled bitterly. Li Gan has used such a rogue-playing method at the moment for more than dozens of times, but almost all of them can be called 100 tries and 100 spirits. Many people who have the ability to kill them have returned in vain. The reason is that the city where people are now is a wild ancient city. The wild ancient city is the largest city in the southwest, among which there are no less than hundreds of thousands of local residents. If you want to add up the number of small cities nearby, I'm afraid there are no less than 800,000 people. There is no need to say more about the prosperity of such a terrible city. Therefore, there are countless outsiders. I'm afraid the daily floating population has exceeded 1 million. Among them, there are no fewer than tens of thousands of strong descendants who have experienced from the great forces. Therefore, no one knows how many forces are contained in the wild ancient city. However, I can understand that behind these people, there is definitely no less than half of the emperor. I can't say that even the real level of fighting the emperor also has a lot. Now, the Medicine Refining Masters Congress is close at hand, and the wild ancient city is full of power. It can be said that it has reached the real peak for many years. The weight of this can be seen. Therefore, if Li dare to really explode in this wild ancient city, the whole wild ancient city will turn into nothingness. And the descendants of those great forces will completely disappear in the world, and then Xiao Yang will really die. The death of those people will all be rooted in his head, and Xiao Yang will also be pursued and killed by the forces of the whole southern region and even other regions. But this is not the situation Xiao Yang wants to see. After all, Xiao Yang has had enough just for a ghost break door. Now he can't afford such a big storm. Why don't you let Li Gan go? Xiao Yang was unwilling. Since he touched the scales, Li Gan must die. 8.5-star emperors can die in his Xiao Yang's hands. Li dare not be a small 6.5-star emperor. He's Xiao Yang, why can't he be killed? But on second thought, it's really not that Xiao Yang can do whatever he wants now. Just one thought, he's in an irreparable situation. Struggling for a moment in his heart, Xiao Yang also thought of forcibly asking Gu to do it, but unfortunately, there was a dead silence in response to him. Although Gu is strong, it is too principled. Now there is no one in this wild ancient city who can dominate all this. With a bitter smile in his heart, Xiao Yang wants to change the formula in his hand and give up the opportunity to kill Li Gan. Li Gan also looks at Xiao Yang with a sneer. At the moment, his heart is also very happy. He just likes to see the inner struggle of his enemies. He obviously has the ability to kill himself, but he doesn't dare to kill, but it really makes him feel very happy. But the next moment, Xiao Yang's printing formula, which wanted to change, suddenly dispersed, raised his palm, and the flame disk in his hand was aimed at Li Gan. In the center, a mysterious black light spot the size of a thumb also sent out a burst of deep dark light at the moment. At the sight of this scene, Li Gan suddenly opened his eyes and showed a surprised look on his face. He quickly roared at Xiao Yang. "Boy, do you really want to turn into ashes with tens of thousands of people in this wild ancient city?" However, Xiao Yang saw a cold sneer at the corners of his mouth, and the cold words came out slowly from his mouth. "I just want to crush you. How can I hurt the innocent? Besides, do you really think you can have a chance to explode?" When Xiao Yang said this, Li Gan's face changed again, and his look was full of surprise and doubt. After a pause, he asked Xiao Yang, "What do you mean by that?" Xiao Yang sneered again. The flame disk in his palm rotated rapidly. The terrible force of flame spread from the disk, making the endless void become extremely hot in an instant. Don't you forget that there is someone who can kill you in this wild ancient city. The pupil suddenly shrinks. Li Gan is also shocked by Xiao Yang's words for a moment, which is enough to kill him. Is it not the man? Xiao Yang said. It seems that you have thought of it. Li dared not think that Xiao Yang would pull the one out at this time, but then he was replaced by a sneer. Even if the elder is in this city, the matter between you and me is not related to the elder. Even if the wild ancient city is really gone, it won't hurt the elder. It's stupid for you to drag the elder into the water. Xiao Yang, however, showed a playful smile at the corners of his mouth. The light in his eyes flickered, and slowly opened his mouth and said, I'm not saying that Laro Luo will pull me into the water, but I want to ask Laro Luo to protect the elder's seclusion, that's all. Master, can you just say a word? Without waiting for Li Gan's voice to fall, an old figure has appeared in the space beside Xiao Yang out of thin air. Looking at its appearance, it is Luo Laro, the master of weapon refining. At the moment when Li dares to see Luo Laro, his face also changes abruptly. He can't imagine that Luo Laro will come out for a boy who has only seen him once. You know, even he has never invited Luo Laro out of his small yard. What means does this boy have to attract Luo Laro and other elders? Luo Laro casually glanced at Li Gan, who was embarrassed all over, and snorted. Then he turned his head to look at Xiao Yang, glanced away, and scolded Xiao Yang softly. The boy has sharp teeth and a sharp mouth. I wouldn't bother to care about you unless the old man has short hands. Xiao Yang also smiled. Anyway, the little old man finally did it. Today, Li Gan can't escape death. When the countless people below heard Luo Laro's words, their faces suddenly became wonderful. They had short hands and could let Luo Laro say such words. How could they know? But in that case, Xiao Yang gave Luo Laro what rare natural materials and earth treasures. When Luo Laro and Xiao Yang finished speaking, they again looked at Li Gan, raised a disdainful smile on the corner of their mouth, and then said in a flat tone, Old man, I was too lazy to pay attention to this matter, but I heard that you wanted to destroy my seclusion, so I was a little dissatisfied, so I thought of it and said to you, I don't know, but it really happened. At the end of the voice, Luo Laro also showed a lazy twilight on his face and yawned. Then he continued to look at Li Gan. When Li Gan heard Luo Laro's words, his face changed again and again, and even in the end, he turned pale and bloodless. Luo Laro came forward. Today, Li Gan has lost all opportunities. If he has nothing to threaten Xiao Yang, today will inevitably become his death. Now, if you still want to survive, there is only one way to choose, that is to apologize to Xiao Yang and try your best to get his forgiveness. In addition, Laro Luo is still on the side. I think Xiao Yang will let him go because of Laro Luo, but at the thought of his 6-star and half-emperor, Li Gan felt humiliated at the moment. But fortunately, the desire for life finally made Li dare to press the endless resentment against Xiao Yang at the bottom of his heart. After all, if he really died here today, it can't be said that the resentment in his heart can't be vented. Even the huge family behind him will be swept away in an instant. But Li Gan can't give up, especially his grandson. How can he be reconciled? After hesitating for a moment, Li Gan was finally cruel in his heart. A pair of bloody eyes full of endless resentments were also slowly closed and swept through the body. He was forced to take back his body. After a good film, Li Gan slowly opened his eyes again, and his face became relaxed and looked at Xiao Yang. The muscles at the corners of the mouth forcibly pulled out a seemingly relaxed smile, and a pair of old eyes were also replaced by the color of embarrassment. He coughed twice and said to Xiao Yang, Ha ha ha, my friend, these are all misunderstandings today. When I go back, I will certainly find out what happened. Today, you and I will fight as if we don't know each other, and we will recognize a friend in the future, ha ha ha. Oh. Old man, I don't think it's necessary to check. Your grandson was beaten by the old man. The little thing raised your face in front of the old man. I can't stand it, so I slapped him. Don't you want to return it? As soon as Li Gan's voice fell, Luo Laro looked at Li Gan with sleepy eyes and whispered. When Li Gan heard this, his pupils shrank suddenly. He was just talking about the scene. Why, the injury on Li Kang was really hit by Luo Laro. He quickly smiled back at Luo Laro. Li Gan also looked very embarrassed. He suddenly turned around and grabbed it hard. The boundary jointly laid by the semi-emperor and the strong was smashed. Immediately after that, Li Kang's figure was pulled up by Li Gan. When Li Kang saw the gloomy color on his grandfather's face, he couldn't help but be stunned. When he saw Luo Laro standing side by side with Xiao Yang, Li King seemed to understand something in an instant. But unfortunately, before he could say anything, Li Gan slapped him in the face. Just in a flash, half of Li Kang's face bulged rapidly and became blood red, and there was blood flowing out of his mouth and nose. A bright red 5-finger print was also clearly printed on Li Kang's face. Say, are you really hurt by brother Yang Xiao? With Luo Laro in the front and Xiao Yang's prestige, Li Gani admits that he is wrong, but he is like this. In a word, he has a closer relationship with Xiao Yang, as if they were old friends who have known each other for many years. When Li Kang heard Li Gan's angry words, his face also changed suddenly. After a good film, he shook his head with trembling. Pa! It was another slap that rang through the sky. Li Gan was also distressed, but Xiao Yang had to be cruel here. Li Gan's face was gloomy, but he didn't know who it was because of. The skin in the corners of his eyes was trembling because of the rage in his heart. Apologize to brother Yang Xiao. As soon as he said this, Li Kang's pupil also contracted to the size of the tip of a needle. He never thought that his grandfather would say such words to himself. But what the situation is, his heart is also very clear. At this moment, he can't let his grandfather apologize to Xiao Yang himself. If so, when he goes back, he doesn't know whether his situation will be better than now. After a long time, Li Kang turned to face Xiao Yang. Although he apologized, there was still a resentful light in his eyes. Finally, after a meal, Li Kang finally bent down to apologize to Xiao Yang under everyone's eyes. At the same time, a pair of palms under his sleeve robe were tightly pinched together, and a trace of blood also flowed down his fingers, indicating the emotion deeply buried in his heart at the moment. Hehe, Li Gan, you're a little strange. I heard it clearly before, old man. You want the rock owl to make an apology. Since it's you now, should you do the same? If you have an apology, it's time to see your apology. To remind you, this little guy's eyes are not bad. Since he can take out something that makes me shocked and his eyes are fierce, there's no need for the old man to say more. You don't fool people. Seeing this scene, Luo Laro grinned and sneered. When he opened his mouth again, Li Gan was convulsed. He had a feeling that his heart was dripping blood. After a long time, Li Gan's heart crossed. Since Laro Luo has spoken, he must take out some things by himself. Look at the meaning of his words, the things he takes must not be bad. He smiled awkwardly. Li Gan looked at Luo Laro with a smile and said with a bitter smile. Senior, I haven't brought anything valuable with me when I go out. I'm saying that it's the younger generation's stuff. Brother Yang Xiao can't see it. Luo Jin heard this, but he gave another sneer, and then his face suddenly became cold. He snorted and said in a cold voice, "Why, no. Then take out your empty thunder pool post." As soon as he said this, Li Gan's face solidified instantly, and the whole person seemed to be fixed on the void, instantly silent. As soon as the voice of Luo Laro's words fell, Li Gan was stunned by the whole person. In any case, he could not imagine that the ultimate purpose of Luo Laro's words was for the void thunder pool post in his hand. He really deserves to be a real strong man. Such calculations not only hollowed out his Li Gan, but also gave Xiao Yang a big favor. At least, in Li Gan's opinion, it is true, but for Luo Lao, the void thunder pool post is just like that. If it is not this thing that can help Xiao Yang, he is too lazy to say more. And this scene, even the 10.5 strong emperor below, after seeing it, his heart was also a burst of secretly glad that he didn't provoke this evil spirit, but also glad that he didn't provoke Luo Lao. However, on the one hand, these semi-imperial strong men are also more curious about Xiao Yang. What rare natural materials and earth treasures he gave to Luo Lao, so that Luo Lao can take care of him. When the Shen Lao saw the scene above the sky, he could not help frowning. Others may not know, but how could he not know? There are also some relationships between him and Luo Lao. Even the cloud pavilion behind him is inextricably linked with Luo Lao. Luo Lao's temperament is not clear in his heart, but he also knows a little. Luo Lao has experienced countless times in his life. Everyone who knows him is a powerful person. Even some strong people with real great power are very friendly with Luo Lao. Among them, there are countless people who want to ask Luo Lao to help refine tools, but Luo Lao's vision is very high. No matter how powerful the person is and how powerful the force behind him is, he doesn't care in front of Luo Lao. Even if someone can invite Luo Lao generally won't give any good face. It can be seen how rare the refining materials that can really make Luo Lao's heart. But now, Xiao Yang asked Laro Luo to help him like this. Is the refining material Xiao Yang gave Laro Luo the last piece on the mainland? At the moment, Li Gan also has a tangled and embarrassed face. This is a once-in-a-century opportunity. He doesn't have a few opportunities in total. How can he be willing to give up in his heart? This is a void minefield post, which condenses the power of the void minefield and is made over 100 years. You can have the opportunity to enter the void minefield once with this post. The void thunderpool is a constant ancient thunderpool that has been condensed for unknown years. The power of the sky thunder is incomparable. Even the semi-emperor strong, if they can absorb and refine well after entering, they can greatly improve not only the power of the body but also the power of the soul. However, it is difficult to detect even those who are as strong as half the emperor. This void minefield post is condensed by the power of the sky thunder in the void minefield. Every 100 years, there will be 30 void minefield posts falling off from the minefield and where they are scattered. At this time, many strong people will come to search. If they get it, they can take this post to enter the void minefield once. Of course, the power of a void minefield post is not enough to open the channel to the void minefield. At this time, it is necessary for the owners of each void minefield post to take out their own void minefield post, gather all the power of the 30 void minefield posts together, and then enter together. Only in this way can we enter the void thunder pool and absorb the power of heaven thunder. How much can be refined depends on the nature. Li Gan's ability to have such strength today, a large part of which is caused by his good luck entering the void minefield twice. Now he is unwilling to give up if he can have such opportunities again. He was sure that if he could enter the void minefield this time, he could take this opportunity to break through to the 7-star and half emperor. How could he be willing to such temptation? You know, although it's only a 1-star gap, how powerful the semi-imperialist is, and the 1-star gap can also lead to the subversion of the whole war situation. Not everyone can be as rebellious as Xiao Yan at the moment. He has many personal level fighting skills. With all his strength, he should be able to fight with the high-level semi-emperor. But if you remove these, I'm afraid it's against a 4-star and a half emperor, and his victory rate will never be much. Thus, it also highlights the temptation of the void minefield to people with such strength as them. And this is exactly the purpose of Luo helping Xiao Yang ask for compensation. The value of void Lei Kai post, as far as Xiao Yang is concerned, is a real temptation. Xiao Yang also knew the void thunderpool post through Luo Laro's voice. He didn't know it before. At the moment, he knew it in his heart and couldn't help but see a wave in his eyes. Since it is such a rare thing, of course, you can get it. Xiao Yang can't let go of Li Gan's compensation. His eyes were slightly raised. Seeing Li Gan's hesitation, Xiao Yang made a cold hum in his nose. His feet suddenly stepped forward, his right palm was lifted to his chest, and the flame disc in his palm was also aimed at Li Gan. Xiao Yang's mind moved, and the flame disc suddenly rotated wildly. Between heaven and earth, there is also a magnificent energy of heaven and earth converging again towards the disc in Xiao Yang's palm. At the moment of seeing Xiao Yang's posture, Li Gan suddenly retreated, and at the same time, he shouted to Xiao Yang. "Don't do it, little rock owl. This void thunderpool has been useless to me. What's wrong with giving it to little rock owl, and how can I make an apology?" Although insincere, it was comfortable in Xiao Yang's ears. At least, Li Gan was willing to give him something. There was a sneer in the corner of his mouth, and Xiao Yang's raised palm also fell slowly. If these people didn't give appropriate blows, they were really unwilling to cooperate well. Really think he is relying on Luo Laro to be so confident. Li Gan was also frightened by Xiao Yang. He was really afraid of Xiao Yang's strong blow and ended him directly here. If he died, the void thunderpool post would not fall into Xiao Yang's hands. In that case, it's better to give him something directly and keep his old life first. Luo Laro on one side saw this scene. On his old face, he couldn't help grabbing a smile of appreciation. Xiao Yang's heart is so old and hot. No wonder he can be in troubled times, but he can finally climb to such a peak. Perseverance and resolute, these men can rise up in this troubled world and win the seat in the world. Seeing Xiao Yang put down his palm again, Li Gan's tight nerve was also slightly relaxed, and he knew that the void thunderpool post in his hand would be handed over to Xiao Yang anyway. At the same time, Li Gan also wrote down the shame Xiao Yang gave him in his heart. He believes that one day, he will give it back to Xiao Yang. Take a deep breath in his chest. Li Gan tried his best to make his mood calm. A moment later, a smile appeared on Li Gan's face. The peace of the smile was as if nothing had happened between him and Xiao Yang. Li Gan faced Xiao Yang, turned his right palm, and a bright silver post appeared in Li Gan's palm out of thin air. Then the strength in Li Gan's palm was shocked, which made the post shoot at Xiao Yang. Seeing this, Xiao Yang also poked out with one hand. His 2 fingers broke the strength contained in the void thunder pool post out of thin air. He put one hand in his palm, didn't look at it, and put it away directly. Xiao Yang knew clearly that Luo Laro was watching. He dared Li and didn't have the courage to do things, so he was very relieved. Looking at Xiao Yang with a painful face, Li Gan is also quite helpless. Now that he has fallen into Xiao Yang's hands, he can only give up. Bowing slightly, Li Gan arched his hand to Luo Laro, said a retreat, and wanted to turn around and take Li Kang away. However, when he turned around, Xiao Yang's voice came out of thin air again. "Brother Li Gan, you really said to go. Did you forget that there was an apology and haven't given it to me yet?" As soon as Xiao Yang said this, not to mention Li Gan, even Luo Laro, who was beside him, couldn't help picking his eyebrows and making an apology. "You just took it. Isn't that it? Why are you asking for it now? Do you really want to force others to kill the fish and break the net?" The moment Li Gan turned around, the expression on his face was also a little gloomy. He made trouble again and again. He really wanted to force him to do it. Xiao Yang, however, was still holding a faint smile at the corners of his mouth. He looked at Li Gan as if he was waiting for him to take something. And Xiao Yang's expression and action, coupled with the flame disk in his phase, under the attack of bursts of flame power, Li Gan not only didn't feel dry and hot, but also felt a cold meaning invading his heart. Xiao Yang also knew that Li Gan couldn't think of anything. Instead, Luo Laro on one side understood the meaning of Xiao Yang's words in an instant with his shrewdness. "Brother Li Gan, can you forget it so soon? You just said that you gave me this void thunder pool post, and make an apology. Naturally, it's another matter. Do you think so?" Xiao Yang said this. Li Gan's face froze for a moment, and then there was another uncontrollable twitch in the corners of his mouth. What he said just now was just a polite remark to listen to. How can Xiao Yang be serious? Isn't it digging a hole for himself? Although the more you think, the more angry you are. After all, Xiao Yang is guarded by Luo Laro at the moment. As long as Luo Laro is there, Xiao Yang will go a little too far at the moment. I'm afraid Luo Laro won't care much. As soon as he thought of this, Li Gan couldn't help feeling a burst of unspeakable humiliation, but no matter how humiliating. But after all, it can't change the result that he was severely pit by Xiao Yang. Li Gan's palm turned out of thin air again, and a crystal stone only the size of the palm also appeared in Li Gan's palm. The flesh pain finally looked at the crystal stone. Li Gan no longer hesitated. It seemed that he was afraid that he would repent. He directly raised his hand and smashed it towards Xiao Yang. The way he threw the crystal stone was like venting his emotions, which made the people watching below laugh. When Xiao Yang took over the crystal stone, a bright color passed quietly in his eyes, and then he was perfectly hidden. Looking up, Li Gan showed a warm smile, which made Li Gan's mouth twitch violently again. Then the 2 men left quickly after they retreated to Luo Laro. The Buddha anger reincarnation in Xiao Yang's palm also turned into a more pure and majestic fighting spirit again in this moment, and returned to the cyclone in Xiao Yang's body. When Li Gan and his wife left, the 10.5 strong emperors at the bottom flew up again. They all stood in front of Luo and bowed respectfully to Luo. And this scene can also see the people in the square city sigh. It's good to be a strong man. No matter how arrogant a guy is, he has to bow his head and salute the younger generation in front of him. Of course, after the 10.5 strong emperors saluted Luo Laro, they also didn't forget that Xiao Yang, who dressed as a pig and ate a tiger, was still on the side and came forward to laugh with Xiao Yang. Even the 3-star semi-emperor strongman who once fought with Xiao Yang still seems to have some lingering fear when talking and laughing with Xiao Yang at the moment, and his attitude in the face of Xiao Yang is very low. Of course, Xiao Yang has no sense of pride in his heart. He knows that although he has the strength to challenge beyond his level, it is also under the premise of doing his best. After a blow, Xiao Yang will fall into a real weak period. Any semi-emperor strong man can kill him easily. At the moment, these people will treat him respectfully, although on the one hand, they have their own strength, but I'm afraid they still come from Luo Laro who has just left. Luo Laro's care for Xiao Yang falls into their eyes today. If Xiao Yang really makes friends with Luo Laro, as long as Luo Laro is a strong man, he will certainly become a strong man with infinite strength in the future. At this time, making friends with Xiao Yang is equivalent to making friends with Luo Laro through Xiao Yang. What they like is Luo Laro's expectation of Xiao Yang. What strength is not strength, but you can't hide. The mainland is so big that you can't hide anything. For these, Xiao Yang was too lazy to pay too much attention. After talking and laughing with them, he left. These semi-imperialist strongmen, after sneering at each other for a while, also dispersed separately and didn't bother to pay attention to anything. That night, a figure quietly left the wild ancient city and flew to the deep mountains and forests outside the city. In just a few seconds, it had galloped thousands of miles. Then, there were bursts of harsh sound of sonic boom from the forest. Countless low-level warcraft were forcibly killed by the terrible sound of sonic boom. This night, seemingly calm, has become a bloody night. This video will end here.